We don't know if we're going to get another extension of the moratorium. And even if we did not get an extension, there's numerous other programs that are already set up that are going to roll out to help people for 6 additional months. So they've been talking about it and advertising it. One of the bigger reasons for the delay is, even if we were to go back, let's go back to 2007 when we had this first foreclosure crisis. The reason we had we had a foreclosure crisis, but we also had a short sale crisis. And the reason was because people did not have any equity in their homes. People have equity in their homes now, which then means that their property will not be subject to a short sale. It will be us selling a property where a notice of default has been filed. So essentially a big part of the ADPR, the Accredited Distressed Property Representative, was based on short sales, not necessarily foreclosure. So to answer your question, are we going to see notice of defaults? Yes. I do not believe they're going to be subject to a short sale, which now means that we will have the right to bring that property to the market, but it will not be subject to lender approval. Okay. With that being said, when we start looking at sellers where notice of default has been filed, time is of the essence for a couple of reasons. One, we don't want to tack on additional unpaid principal and interest if they're trying to preserve their credit, and if they don't have a lot of equity. Okay. And so what we would be looking at then is subscribing to get great information on notice of defaults as soon as they are filed, and we want to be sensitive. So we want to be the person who, now maybe you might have been in a community where the average price point was $350,000, $400,000. You want to step it up $200,000. When people reach a certain price point, they don't want people in their community to know their business. So I would think of the market as being a step-up market, right? Where historically we could go into a higher price point, because at that higher price point, they would not want that local community realtor to know that they had filed a notice of default. So I believe that we should do a default marketing campaign, but keeping in mind that the property will not be subject to lender approval, which then means that 60, 90 days, I mean, like we've had short sales in the past that were 18 months in duration. We won't need that lender approval. We will treat it as an additional sale. But when we get the payoff letter, we have to make sure that they've included that additional unpaid principal and interest in that payoff letter. That was really, I'm gonna be honest, that was a good question. Because I still think that there's going to be a great marketing opportunity there. It just won't be subject to the short sale, which is the headache of trying to sell a default. So we won't have that headache.
So when these notice of defaults, so say you have a list of these notice of defaults, and we actually have a girl in our office that I'm friends with, and she worked for 26 years as a paralegal in for a bankruptcy attorney. So she's very versed with some of this stuff, and we've kind of sat down a little bit and tried to go through some of it. So let's say you have this notice of default list. What would be your verbiage to this seller? Because obviously you don't want to, hey, I know you're in default. So how would you word that scripting as the helper, the savior, the life preserver person?
First of all, I would want to know what are the special programs, right? I met with a gentleman named Cal Draper. I've interviewed him on my podcast. He helped me with my storytelling. One thing that I've changed in my storytelling in the last week, 10 days, instead of using the word you, I'm using the word we. Okay. So when a person is experiencing hardship, we would want to position it as a we and not a you. We've gone through, interesting times. We understand that everyone has not paid their mortgage in a timely manner. These are the benefits. So I would not say, I know you. I would position it as a we statement to make it more inclusive and collaborate with them, but offering them a solution in that same note card. And then I would go, we, but then I might say, if you or someone you know has fallen behind, here's a solution. Feel free to call me.